that God was completely reckless and irresponsible with his grace. Well, you see, this parable that Jesus told is really, really deep. 10,000 talents is a significant amount for two reasons. In this story, you have to understand back in Jesus' day, the highest number that they counted to was 10,000. That was the highest number that was recorded for them. And the largest denomination of money was a talent. So what Jesus did was combine in his parable the highest amount ever and the highest denomination that could be owed. See, that doesn't make sense in the context of the story because there's no way a servant can actually owe that amount of money. But what Jesus is doing is helping us understand the enormity and the absurdity of the grace that he has for us. And I gotta tell you, I don't believe that the servant really got it. Now, when we read the scripture, we kind of insert ourselves in and say, yeah, I think he appreciated being forgiven all of that money, but he just kind of forgot when he ran into the other servant. He kind of forgot. See, I don't think that's what actually happened. You see, I believe he never really got it. If you notice what he said right before he was forgiven, he says, in verse 26, the servant fell down before him and said, Master, have patience on me, and I will pay you all. And then the result of his statement was, all right, you're forgiven. So what do you think happened to him? Like, wait a minute. I promised I would pay him back, and he forgave me. With that mentality, the first person he runs into that owes him money, what do you think is going to happen? Hey, I know it's only $10, but working on this whole $10 million thing, and I really, really need it. So if you could give me that money right now. You see, what happened was he did not appreciate that his debts were really forgiven. And it was forgiven in spite of what he did. And he himself began to work on repaying that grace. Does that sound like anyone else? That grace has been bestowed upon us freely. Yet we continually try to work to gain repayment for this salvation. I promise God I will keep this out. I will eat more soy products than my body can take. Not because I love you and I recognize the grace that has set me free, but I really think that if I do enough of it, I can pay back the $10 million that I owe. We have to understand that if we are going to forgive and appreciate the gift that God gave us, we have to recognize that our righteousness is as filthy rags to God. You see, what happens is we begin to think that we're okay with God. I've done enough to be okay with God. And then when somebody comes and confronts us, we're like, oh, really? You don't know me. I'm meeting God like this. I can't believe you're going to do that against one of God's own. But what you have to understand is God doesn't see you. He sees his Son. And he credits his Son's righteousness on your behalf. So you're sitting there cocky in the seat of judgment, not realizing that it's not about you. And so the deeper you fall in understanding that your righteousness is nothing, the easier it's going to be to forgive one another. We have to understand out of this story that God was completely reckless and irresponsible with his grace.